discuss some of the issues. And thank you for starting with the concerns of the island economies, which I want to come to for a couple of reasons. One is that we're really honored and lucky to have with us the High King of the indigenous Polynesian kingdom of the Tui and the Ali Nui. And we were very lucky to be with him in his native home this past summer and to see all of the incredible hard work that indigenous populations face, the challenges that they face of exclusion, having had land and islands taken away, and now the problem of the rising sea level, as you noted. But another reason that I appreciate the focus on island economies is that we live on one. Manhattan is a small island economy. And the climate change issue, which we will talk about together in Ethics in Action this coming year, will focus in part on the evidence that the sea level rise that is possible if we do not stop this is so significant and could come so fast that we will have to take a boat to our Ethics in Action meetings in the future. In other words, we face dire threats, and it's your leadership, Secretary General, that helped us to get to the point where we finally, for the first time ever, at least have an agreement on the basic strategy forward. I wanted to ask you, in that regard, a few things for our guidance also. And you mentioned the first point, and that is the question of why it seems that the tensions on globalization are rising so significantly, and all of these nationalist pressures. From your perspective, since you've seen almost every country in the world, you've spoken to every leader, and now we have this backlash underway. Do you have some thoughts about what is going to be the most effective way to overcome what seems to be a rolling backlash right now, and how we're going to make sure that leaders follow the direction that you've indicated? I thought it was fair that we're going to ask all questions about the incoming president for your successor. So this is not a question about the election in the United States, but a more general question of what you think we can do to strengthen the commitment to the international norms and to overcome what seem to be growing pressures of nationalism and globalism.
In the course of globalization, I think mostly there have been a lot of positive things for our lives. But in the course of all this deepening globalization, and with a lot of movement of people, and particularly with the growing number of crises, violences happening here and there. For example, the crisis in Syria, which has been continuing 6 years. Then in Yemen, the South Sudan, Central African Republic, Libya, etc., etc. I think that many people have to flee their homes, flee their countries forcibly. This kind of situation has caused a lot of divides. At first, the people have been very kind, and they have shown some solidarity, and they have shown compassionate leadership. And when the number of refugees and displaced persons reached more than 60 million people. Now we have 65 million people. That's the highest number of people since the end of Second World War. Only during Second World War, we have had that many refugees. Then clearly we see lack of compassion. lack of solidarity, global solidarity. Even in 2010, when there was a huge tragic earthquake in Haiti, many people just showed their leadership and solidarity. A lot of money were mobilized in just one day. But after that, with all these Arab Springs, which started in a positive way, but has been met with some leaders who have been just crushing the will of the people. This kind of has created some grievances among people, and people have been fighting against the people. Then this created crisis in many parts of the world. Even under such circumstances, while nationalisms are mounting and there are political rhetorics by political leaders who are inciting and provoking nationalism, and just among themselves. I think if we have a global solidarity, if we have a compassionate leadership, knowing that we are living in a small world after all. The people moving from this place to another place, I think they are not going anywhere. And they are living in this world. So that the burden has been moved to another countries, then this country will have another problem, while you may have a lesser problem, but this will come back to you. So we should know that we are living in a small world after all. And if we show our solidarity, global solidarity, then we will be able to lessen and reduce the nationalism and the very parochial regionalism. I have been urging member states, as I said, that let us build the bridges so that people can freely move around rather than erecting walls. That has been my message. Then more seriously, this kind of very difficult situations where many people have been harboring their grievances in their hearts against the government, it has given some perfect ground for extremists and terrorists take roots among people. So we have to be very seriously addressing these issues altogether. Not a single country can do this. United States, however powerful, the richest and most powerful country, cannot do it alone. United Nations cannot do it alone when there is no solidarity. So we have to show some strong solidarity for humanity.
Thank you very much. Can I ask you, and I know that your time is short, so we will respect that. One more question, which is that you've been Secretary General 9 years, 11 months, and one month to go. And I think all of us feel, and you've proved again and again, that the United Nations is the unique and indispensable institution globally for global cooperation, the only place where it's conceivable to have an agreement on climate, or the only place that it's conceivable to have an agreement on human rights. What could you tell us about the most important ways that the UN should be strengthened and renewed in the coming years? What are the biggest challenges and ways and areas where we should support the UN or insist on international support for the UN in particular ways so that the United Nations can perform its services in the most effective manner?
I'm conscious of some criticisms about the United Nations effectiveness and efficiencies. As Professor Sachs said, we have 193 member states. When UN was founded 71 years ago, there were only 51 member states. Now it has gone maybe 4 times in terms of member states. In terms of the number of crises, I think it has, with the globalization and with the people's movement all around the world, the number of crises, number of problems have again exponentially increased. And therefore, it is only natural that we have seen so many problems and people have not been happy with what the United Nations has been doing. Having said that, when you think that there are 193 member states, that means we have 193 board members in one company. You may know well that however big company, global company, there are not as many 193 board members in boardrooms. There's a CEO and some very effectively working board members, 20, 25 or 30, not 193. When the problem is that all these 193 board members, they seem to believe that everybody is a chairman of this board. Because they claim that we are sovereign state. So sovereignty, that is most important principle which we have to respect. But when the member state discuss in the United Nations, and this is a universal international organization, then they should not too much insist on their national interest. They should talk about the global visions, like sustainable development goals, climate change issues, gender empowerment issues, and human rights, human dignity, how to reduce this injustice, how to eradicate impunity, and how to eradicate poverty, and how to help those people living with the physical disabilities, how to enhance the human rights of indigenous group of people, etc., etc. But in most cases, they bring their very narrow perspective of national interest. National interest. Sometimes this makes Security Council paralyzed. Ineffectiveness. We've been trying to reform, we've been trying to change the work of the United Nations. Unfortunately, sometimes it seems that we have inherent problems, inherent structural problems. That's why during the last 10 years, I have been asking and doing a lot to reform the UN's way of working. The one is that let's work as one United Nations. We have so many different agencies and funds and programs and secretariats. We have at least 16 specialized agencies where member states are all different, funding are all different, and we have many funds and programs. They are almost autonomous, even though I appoint them. I appoint heads of all these funds and programs. Since day one, I said I initiated delivering as one system, DAO, delivering as one. One United Nations, think as one, act as one, and deliver as one. This has been very much well established now, and I have been convening twice a year inviting all the heads of specialized agencies and funds and programs. All these heads of, we've been meeting together and trying to make sure that whole UN system work as one team. I've been telling them that even though I do not have a direct authority to ask them to do this and that, for example, let's make sure that while we drive our car in an expressway, there are 4 or 5 lanes. Some cars, some drivers, they can drive for 60, 70 miles, or some people may drive 50 miles, but that's fine, unless we go toward the same direction, unless we don't violate the traffic rules like going against this opposite lane or breaking this, the solid yellow lanes. You are free to drive at a comfortable speed. But let's make sure that we don't make any accident and we go toward the same direction. That's a philosophical thinking of the United Nations, and we have been doing during the last 10 years. Of course, there are many areas to improve. And there are decision-making process is problematic sometimes. There is clearly some misunderstandings, misperception that consensus is identified with unanimity. When 193 member states are there, it is extremely difficult to achieve unanimity. We say that let's decide on consensus. Consensus means that whether there are 5 or 6 countries who may have different views, when most of them agree on one thing, then all these people should not block. I mean, for example, any well-functioning company, 1 or 2 board members try to block any decision of the CEO. Then at the same time, most of the companies, when CEO decides, it's done. It's done. Then CEO will be responsible when they do not make a profit at the end of the year, so they can be replaced. But here, absolutely, if you have to ensure that there is always a consensus, then you cannot function. I have been asking the Security Council all the times, why I do not challenge about veto power. That's a charter provision, so I cannot change unless you amend Charter of the United Nations. But whatever may happen, very seriously tragic things happen when Security Council issues a statement. There are presidential statement, press statement. All 15 member states have to agree without exception of any country. So one country can block this decision. And then Security Council is paralyzed. Then while many people have been killed in the secret and Syria and elsewhere, sometimes they cannot even condemn. It has been me, as a Secretary General, I have always been condemned. I have no such things. When I decide, I can issue, I can speak out. But when the General Assembly or Security Council, when they have to make a consensus decision, it takes time. For example, when North Korea detonated nuclear weapons, then still sometimes they cannot say anything. It takes sometimes 1 month or 2 months to say something. Then one cannot have a problem. That's what I have been urging as a Secretary General. We have to change this decision-making process. Of course, I should not be too much critical about the organization in which I have been working, and I have been really trying to change this. I have changed a lot, but still, decision-making process should be changed. That's one thing. as an outgoing Secretary General, I have become a little bit more vocal now. That's one thing which I can tell you.
Thank you very much. The Secretary General and Mrs. Ban Ki-moon have to leave us. Stay put because we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about our coming program together. But please stand and join me again.